Okay, Caitlin, I'm making this video to help you out here on these assignments that McKaylee's giving you. Okay, you can cross the first one out. That's basically not a good problem. And now on these three, with simplify, if the direction or simplify, you're going to need this sheet here that gives you all the cubes, squares, fourths, and fifths. So number 2. When you multiply with roots, there's 3 steps, okay? 1, 2, 3. So I'll be taking 3 times 2, which is 6, make a cubed root. And then I take 80 times 128, which gives me a pretty high answer, 10,240. Okay, so then what I do at that point is I see if I can divide this by anything. Okay. Just sign out Argenis. Sign me out of that. Okay. Okay, so 10,240. Now I'd be looking at the cubes list. Okay. So I'd have to go down all the way down here. 10,240 divided by 1,000 is a decimal. 10,240 divided by 729 is a decimal. 10,240 divided by 512 is not a decimal, so I can proceed. So I drop my 6 and I make 2 roots. They're both cubed roots. And I put what I divided by 512 and the answer I got, which is 20. Okay, now this has an equal, and I look over here and that is 8. So what I do is I take 8 times 6, and that's 48, cubed root 20. That's your product. Okay, number 3, we are finding a sum. We're adding, okay? So that's totally different than multiplying. So what I'm going to do is make a chart, and I'm going to make 3 cubed root 10 and 2 cubed root 80. Okay, so cubed roots. Well, I'm looking for 10, but I don't think 10 is going to divide by anything. Dividing by 1 doesn't really help. Any other thing can. So I'm just going to circle that. That's prime. It can't be broken down. So the 2 is dropped. Okay. Oh, yeah, before I need to divide 80 by something. So 80 is divisible by 8 from this list. And if I divide 80 by 8, it's 10. Now I replace that 8 with its equal, which is 2. So I take 2 times 2, which is 4, cubed root 10. Okay, so what do these have in common? Well, they have the cubed root of 10 in common, and then I can add the outsides. 3 plus 4 is 7. 7 cubed roots of 10. Okay, number 4. Now we get some variables, so I need to break this up. So 250, okay? I can make my, I want to see if 250 divides by anything. So by 216, nope. Divided by 125, yep. Okay, so I make 2 cubed roots. One of them has a 125, the other has a 2. Okay, so the cubed root of 125 is 5. So 5 cubed root of 2. Okay, now with letters, you want to write out all your letters. And then circle 3 at a time. So 1, 2. So we got 2 of them. 2 full groups with 1 left over. Then y to the 8th. 1, 2, 3, 4, 5, 6, 7, 8. So I have 3 of them with two of them with 2 left over. So y second and a square root with y to the second. Okay, so in my answer, my simplification, I put a 5 out and a 2 in. I put an x to the second out with an x in. And then I put a y to the second out with a y to the second in. Okay, now last problems we're solving equations, but it's kind of confusing because they're not all the same. Okay? Now the first problem is I want you to get rid of that 3. I don't want that there. Now what I'm going to do when I solve these is make a little box here and write x down. And I want to write some information about the x. Now here's the first question. Is x to any power? No, not really. Okay, so is x inside of anything? Yeah, it's inside of a square root. Okay? So, to solve it for x in a square root, we need to make sure the outside of the square root is clear, and it is. So I need to now get rid of the square root, and I get rid of the square root by taking both sides to the second power. That cancels, so that's 5x minus 4. Then 2 to the second power is 4. And then I just solve for x. I add 4, 5 times x equals 8. I divide by 5, and 8 divided by 5 is 1.6. Okay, my next problem. Negative 2 times the square root of 24 times x, and then after the square root, plus 13 equals negative 11. So what's going on with the x here? Is it to a power? No. Is it inside of something? Yeah, it's inside of a square root. Okay? So again, we need to make sure the outside of the square root's clear, but on this problem it's not. We have a negative 2 multiplier and then a plus 13. First we have to deal with the plus 13. So I minus 13, minus 13. So I've got negative 2 square root 24x, and then negative 11 minus 13 is negative 24. And then I divide by this negative 2 here. And that's 12. So the square root of 24 times x equals 12. Now my outside of the square root's clear, and I can go to my second power. So that cancels, and I get 24x equals 144. And then I divide by 24, and 144 divided by 24 is 6. Okay. Okay, my next problem. 2x to the 2/3 power equals 32. So again, I want to make a little box and say what's going on with x. Okay, is x to a power? Yeah, actually here it is. It's to a 2/3 power. Okay, now whenever we have a power, I have an x to a power, and that's the only x I have really. I'm going to circle the top number. If that's even, I'm going to make a plus minus note. Okay, if that top number's even. Okay, nothing is surrounding that x. Okay, so not a parentheses. So I just get the x by itself. I isolate. Okay, so I got to take care of this 2 by dividing. So 32 divided by 2 is 16. So x to the 2/3 power equals 16. And then to get rid of a power that is a fraction, we take both sides to the reciprocal power, meaning I just flip the 2/3 to 3/2, and that cancels. And that's 3/2. So x equals, I take 16 to the power of 3/2. 16 power 3 ABC2. And I got 64. Now if I make the plus minus note, I need to make the plus minus. Okay, number 8, parentheses, x minus 5, that's a 5 up there, 5/3 power minus 73 equals 170. So my first question is x to any power? Yeah, it's to the 5/3 power. So circle that 5, and that's odd, so I'm not going to do the plus minus. Okay, now, is x surrounded by anything? Yeah, it's surrounded by a parenthesis. So I'm going to put that parenthesis there, and when it's surrounded by a parenthesis, we're going to use the q. Okay, so I use q to the 5/3 power minus 73 equals 170. Now I make this table to bring back the x minus 5. But if I'm not doing the plus minus, because that's odd, I don't need this side. Okay, so I'm going to X that out. So now I solve for Q. I add 73 to both sides, and that's 243. So Q to the 5/3 power equals 243. And then I take both sides to the 3/5 power. Okay, so Q equals, remember we're not doing the plus minus with the power. So 243 to the power of 5 ABC3 is, well, that did not work. It's to the 3/5 power, sorry. 243 power 3 ABC5 gives me 27. Okay, so I have 27, and I just solve it. Plus 5, I get 32. All right, number 9. X to the 6th power equals 140. What is going on with my X? Okay. It's to a power, it's to a 6th power. Does any parentheses surround the power or surround the X with the power? No, so I don't need Q. Okay. I just need to get the X by itself. So a 6th power, now just like I would with a 2nd power, I do a root, but I'm going to make it a 6th root. Oh yeah, by the way, I forgot something. This is even, so that's plus minus you're going to need. So X equals, and on my calculator I go 6, 2nd, and then the whatever is on yours, okay, and 140. Okay, and I came up with 2.28. Okay, and that's an even, so we'll need the plus minus. Okay, now the next one, what is going on with the X? Well, you see there's 2 of them this time. Okay, is there any powers on the X's? Nope. Does anything surround my X's? Yeah. A square root on one, but then there's another X not in a square root. So if you recall back to these 2 I did, number 5, number 6, I just had the square root of X and that's it. Okay? When I have a square root of X and an outer X, that means I'm going to have to work a little bit harder. Okay? So I look outside the square root. Is it all clear? Yep. So we can do the 2nd power. The side with the square root cancels, and I have what's underneath, 21x plus 1. Now, how do you take x plus 5 to the 2nd power is the question. Well, you go off this side, you make 2 parentheses with x plus 5, and then you FOIL. X times x, x times 5, 5 times x, and 5 times 5. So that's x to the 2nd, that's 5x, that's 5x, and that's 25. So I've got 1x to the 2nd plus 10x plus 25. Now what do I have for x's? Well, I got x to the 2nd, but I've also got x to the 1st. So I'm not going to be able to get the x by itself. I need to move everything to one side so I can factor the expression. So I subtract 21x. That would go nicely with my 10x. Minus 1, minus 1. You want to clear the side of the equation that doesn't have the x squared. So that's 1x to the 2nd minus 11x plus 24 is 0. Okay, now it's a trinomial to factor. There's 3 terms, so GCF and the T table. So GCF, I don't have one, okay. A times C, I take 1 times 24, and that is positive 24. So I'd look for a sum of 11. Nope. 3 and 8. Okay, now my 11's minus, so this parenthesis is going to need a minus, and so will the other. Okay, so A is 1x to the 2nd, so I can just go x minus 3 minus 8. And to get my 2 answers for the x minus 3 is 0, x minus 8 is 0, plus 3, you get 3, plus 8, you get 8. Okay, the other packet Michaela gave you, just try your best you can to get that done.